There's back. Just back outside. Okay. So, good evening and welcome to this evening's meeting of Highways Committee, Thatcham Town Council, today being Thursday, the 27th of August. And this meeting is being recorded for the publication on the Thatcham Town Council YouTube channel. And if you're watching that on YouTube, you're probably already aware of it. So, and if you welcome in councillors remotely, but not. So, moving on to the agenda item 1, apologies for abs.
Just one to note, Chairman, and that's Councillor Val Watts.
Okay, thank you. And then declarations of interest.
Yeah. Item number 7, the gambling statements of principal consultation. This is being asked if it wants to respond to the consultation this evening. I should probably know that for my remit as the portfolio holder of WB2 or public business engagement.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll see how we get that far. So, the minutes of the last meeting, to say that we confirm these accurate, the minutes of the meeting on the 30th of July. Does anyone, relatively short this month, does anyone have any comments on the minutes? No, so I'll propose from the chair that we to confirm as accurate these minutes. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Cannon. All those in favour? Thank you very much. For the officer, the provided must be back on matters. Wait. Oh, well, there is one thing to note because we had an action refer to the next meeting.
Oh,
that's on the agenda.
Yeah.
It's on the agenda. Right. So then move on to anything else. Right. So anything move on to planning applications.
Just a couple to note, Chair. The West Ward application 240146, land area of 123 to 125 Bath Road. Construction of 2 detached bungalows together with associated parking and access off road. These are the 3D proposals, which I will sort of slowly.
Actually, before you do, can I explain the history for the newer councillors? This is the 4th application for this site. The first 3 were for 3 houses on this site. They were rejected on one of the grounds for objection from West Berkshire Council was the overdevelopment. I did a calculation and the 3 houses was equivalent to 24 houses per hectare, whereas the council policy said for the urban sites it should be 30 to 35. So they rejected it for overdevelopment when it was in fact below the policy requirement. There were a number of other objections to that. The 3rd application was withdrawn. The 2nd application was unusually Thatcham Town Council supported the appeal and wrote a 5-page representation in support of that and commenting on the grounds for objection, which we'll come to later. So we made no objection for the first one, assuming that it would go through, because but we then gave them more reasoned arguments on the second one, and as I say, we then supported the appeal, but the appeal was refused on, I think, largely legal matters. Okay, going back to the application, the present application.
So these are the 3D images that were provided. The access would be obviously off the Bath Road in between the 2 properties of 123, 125 to the rear.
That's the left entrance, not the 2 properties are the 2 houses, not the bungalow, by the way.
Sorry, that's just moved up. Actually, yeah,
Gotcha.
Okay, so there would access it there. There's a little green bush at the end there, but vegetation that would obviously be raised to get it out. And this is,
you will notice the context in terms of housing density. It is just down the road from the 43 flats and 8 houses on the corner of Bath Road and
That is the 3D view that was provided.
So, if I say something else about the previous, I haven't checked on the, there are 22 letters of support, 3 objections. I haven't checked through the 3 objections, but there were 3 objections to the previous application, which were from residents of Barfield Road, which is the road behind, which is exclusively bungalows. And when I read through those grounds for objection, they were concerned about the generality of developments, in particular overlooking and so on. But if you look at these developments, they're also bungalows. It seems to be to put anything into the lot subsequently. So I think that we made the appeal while we recognise we're told to put great weight on objections from residents. While we recognise that, we felt that that when you look at the detailed plans, the details of the application satisfied the objections. So before I go, I'll come on to what we said in the appeal, because some of that may be relevant. I just wondered what people thought about this.
Fine.
Yeah. So
if you appealed on density last time, then whatever your density was, it's just compliant for them compliant, therefore.
So we could should, but the density is too low because they objected last time it was too high, but I don't think we should. So yeah,
Behind the house.
particularly the 2 houses. If you go back to the streets scene, if you go to those houses on the corner. So if you know that, do you know those houses there?
Yeah.
So you have those 3 blocks of flats, and behind that you have 8, I think it is, semi-detached houses. With the garden, those runs the full length of development of those flats plus the houses. So a lot of the houses along Bath Road have these very long gardens, which is why we've got those other infills further along. Okay. Yeah. You remember one of them fairly recently, but there are 2 others at least.
It seems like they've done their best to get over whatever obstacles.
Yeah. And so one of the objections previously, you'll laugh at this one, was that they were concerned at the noise of the vehicles going between the houses on the residents of the houses. The front windows are 13 metres from the A4.
Yeah, people will object to anything.
So that was the council. So will we go to that? So we were 5-page objection, sorry, 5-page letter of support last time.
Sorry, are these 2-bedroom bungalows?
3 and 4.
Okay.
1 to 3 was a 4.
So I guess it made one side. So we go to our representation last time. So it was 5 pages. The majority of it was commenting on the specific grounds for objection last time, which are obviously not relevant. If you look at this is the general view that we stated last time. So we supported the appeal. Paragraph 3 gives the 3 options, and we're generally speaking why we use them. The 4th one gives the history. The 5th one recognises need, and then it's welcome the development. So what I suggest that we do is that we take that wording and update it. The same principles.
Yep. Okay, that makes sense.
So I say the rest of it. I think section 2 is addressed to the inspector, the local council.
So you're on the repeating one.
It's another one, yeah. Then if you look at section 3, that was to do with the grounds that were given for refusal, which is sure. And then section 4 was for the residents, which at the moment I think section 1 to reflect the current situation, and the same conclusion. Yeah, and of course, I think it's even more important now that we have the alternative of 2,500 houses. We should be looking for as much development as we can, which is in an appropriate location. Yeah. Okay. So thank you. So I'll do that quickly. Let's do that within a few days. If you're to change the wording, it's editorial. It's the sexual updates of that wording to reflect the situation. So I propose that we do take that course of action. I think we can accept the editorial works. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you. Thank you very much. That's approved.
Can I just check? Yes. The officer be doing the
you can do it. We'll do it between us, but yeah. So thank you. Yeah.
Okay, application number 2. Well, this was debate whether to put on, but it was put at the end. This is
actually we all have interest probably because this is being made in the name of the county.
the Cedar Dental Care, 3 Bath Road, the erection of a heritage blue plaque, which is this one.
Yeah,
that far.
Noting that the town council has an interest in this because it is the applicant. But I think we can still express on pecuniary. Anyway, the point is that I think we are the applicant. I'm not sure if we do need. I probably don't need to make a comment on it because we have is the application made in our name. So if the application is made in our name, then it's not appropriate for us to comment on it. If the application's been made in another name, like for example the general centre, then we would probably make no objection. I think
No.
Yeah, we'll note it if unless it's in our. What I'm suggesting, if the application is made in the council's name, then we note it. If it's not, then we put in. I think no objection would be appropriate with a comment that the application is on our behalf. Yeah, sounds good.
And application 3 to be considered is some business village in Oxford Way. This demolition of office building, of a storage and distribution warehouse. We will then show you the plans. Use within Class B2, that's very office space, together with access parking and landscaping. This is adjacent to Colford Lane. Just on the left hand side of it. And that's another overview of
Yet an
office from there.
Yet another warehouse.
Another warehouse. And then you've got parking. But that's basically the demolition and bigger.
So can you got a picture because I think all will become clear when you see the building that it's proposed that they propose to demolish.
Yep. We just get that.
So
it doesn't actually give the well, go on.
Go on to the A4. Yeah,
I believe it's this one on the corner.
So there was an application for one of these to be demolished, and I think this is the second one to be demolished.
That rings a bell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's quite a big area, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. So comments.
Well, I have no objection to the proceed.
Yeah.
In Australia, I would like to see, and to claim some interest for this, but actually, as a principle, we should be encouraging solar panels on the roofs, on this, wherever possible. It's environmentally friendly, obviously, and if the charging stations appropriately. Lot of electric charging points. Because that's something that should be coming in through the system, through these big distributors. I'm not sure if that's been covered within the actual planning application itself. But it wouldn't be a bad thing to suggest to that. That should be part of the at least future-proofing structural. These electoral bodies.
So this is broadly similar to the development the application that predated the police, which the council objected on the grounds of vehicle movements largely. Because of the next increase in lorry movements through the town centre, street. Also I would say I am worried about the monolithic nature of that the Colthrop development, that it's a large number of sites that have relatively low employment, and with progress of technology increasingly less employment. So
I don't mean there's no employment in that site, isn't it?
no, because it's serviced offices. So I noted that not giving I don't want to give company names, noted that one of the major supermarkets was advertising that it was seeking a site in Thatcham. Now that is actually just about the only site that is readily accessible by car for a large number of people. Everything else is sort of getting further and further away from into all of the other developments, but the opposite end of the site from the A4. So there's two questions about this. Firstly, do we object to new council? We have previously objected to new committee membership. We previously objected to other, I would say, comparable sites. I think we objected to the first phase one. And if we do object, do we make comments about the demolition? Do we make comments about what we'd like to see, the sort of thing we'd like to see, rather than just the umpteenth warehouse?
The fresh members' memories, and although we objected to actually get planning permission.
Yes, but then it was an outline, and then of course it was followed by.
Yeah. Basically means planning terms. It's a done deal. As long as you jump through your hoops.
Yeah. Yes.
But in the same thing, so it'd be difficult to object to it from.
We can object to it. But
For West Berkshire. So I'm using some suggestions.
Yeah. So what I would suggest is, firstly, we don't. If the building is genuinely redundant, on purpose, we don't object to the demolition. We don't object to the planning class, but it's a strong preference for, within that class, something that provides a greater variety of employment in the Colthrop estate area. And that whatever's built would have be fully populated with solar panels, and if appropriate for the final usage, or charging points for cars, and if appropriate for the final usage, also for lorries. It shows a detailed plan there. Is this an application is it an outline or in full? What's the reference number?
The reference number is, isn't it?
Yes. It is. If it was outlined, they quite often an outline application comes with a detailed drawing, but that's not part of the plan. This is actually an application for the facility. So I was proposing those three elements: no objection to the demolition of the building if redundant. Secondly, that no objection to the use class for the replacement. We have a preference for something which gives a greater variety of employment opportunities in Colthrop than just another warehouse. Whatever the final be solar panels. If not, there should be solar panels to the maximum amount of solar panels, and charging points for cars, and if appropriate for lorries. Thank you. So I'm proposing that as I just dictated it, and you have that. And so do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Luke. So, and with that,
Listen,
those in favour, those in favour, that is approved. Thank you very much. So we move on to.
I'm not considered there, just a little. Those on the screen there.
I believe that the reason for the application for heat pumps is if it's closer than a certain amount, certain distance to the road, then they have to apply for permission. I think it's the same as in sheds if you. That's why it's there, I believe, why we don't see loads of them. Okay, I think nothing to concern people, so we will move on then.
So we have three that were not considered and approved. Beancroft Road, we considered it, but no objections. That's now been approved. Units the courtyard, the Broadway, we considered it and had some objections, which are outlined below. Point one, we considered about the impact of the loss of a retail premises on the viability of the town centre. West Berkshire have refused. The pre-construction agreement with us, and
So that was that was actually an application to determine whether a full application was required.
required, yes, three.
So the council is now saying that when full application is needed, they haven't concluded on the merits of it. They're just saying that it's to be submitted.
is that an unusual thing for them to do? Because I thought the whole purpose of the pre-planning application is to get a shopping list of them.
No, this is not a pre-application. This is a formal application to determine if. So there may be a private. Part of. Okay. Thank you. So gambling. Next. Item Gathering Act for statement of principle consultation. Perspective the majority of the length of this pack. Item 6. Sorry, yes, on the Berkshire local plan review. Oh dear.
If you possibly
Where to start? So the inspector has given a preliminary to West Berkshire Council that the housing allocation for North East Thatcham should be increased from 1,500 to 2,500 houses. He gives a number of reasons of evidence to justify that, and I believe that some of those are in fact not correct. That the documents do not give an assumption that the North East Thatcham, the Thatcham Strategic Growth Study, gave an assumption of 2,500 houses, but I've been unable to find any evidence of justification. And the document, I think it was the LVIA, was by the North East, I believe, but the part that forms part of the council's evidence base was specific. The consultants were given a specific brief that would have prevented any conclusions about the capacity of the site. And then they've also, the inspectors also instructed the council to add a number of other sites to the application. Basically, he concluded that the proposals in the draft local plan fell short of the number of houses that were required at that time by about 800. So he firstly, earlier on in the process, he asked the council to reconsider housing allocations that they've rejected. And those have been rejected in a very late stage in the process where they've met most of the technical criteria. And he has then asked the council to have those added to the local plan, of which two, which effectively are effectively they're continuous, but they're described separately, probably because they're separate ownership, surround the Regency Park Hotel, Thatcham, but that is technically in Caldash Parish. And that was, I think, 225 in one case and 45 in the other case, houses. Now that has been the subject of a detailed planning application, an outline planning application, but accompanied with a detailed master plan, which was subsequently withdrawn. So we have seen a fairly detailed proposal of what might be envisaged on that site. The new government has announced a much larger allocation for West Berkshire as a whole. which is more than this allocation at present. So the situation is, and then the inspector has asked the council, they've already asked the council for its preliminary comments, and the councillors largely accepted what he was proposing. And he's asked for other parties to make which is before our next meeting, prior to 3 more days of hearings in the 1st and 3rd of October, which the 1st of October would be on North East Thatcham. The 2nd of October would be on the other sites, of which 2 of the 4 are those ones to the north of Thatcham. The 3rd day is 2 issues. One's to do with just environmental performance of housing, which we have a slight interest because we've made comments. And the other one is to do with a site for ring show people at Emborne, which we we have no legitimate interest. I can tell you that the Emborne Parish Council certainly does. So the question is, we have to make we have the opportunity to make a statement, and secondly, we have an opportunity to be represented at the meeting, those hearings. So I've assumed that we'll be represented at the hearings. So I've already asked for us for the officers to notify the programme manager for the inspector. And then we have a question about how do we wish to make a statement? I suspect we probably do, and how we go about finalising that. So I asked a question to the officers. Was Mel in today to answer that?
She was in, she didn't answer it.
Okay. So the question is, I need to discuss it offline with the clerk then, about how we go about approving a statement. I think most of what we would want to say is fairly closely defined from what we said previously, except for the case of, as far as North East Thatcham goes, except that how we respond to the 2,500 houses, because we didn't explicitly had to make that statement previously. But I would suggest that we're also mindful of the situation that the West Berkshire Council's in, that the inspectors effectively instructed them to do this, and the government, through whatever that department's called now, has effectively compounded the problem for the council by the new housing allocation. So what I will suggest is that we've got the 6th of September, so we need to approve that. And we can either do that by email, or which would probably go to all councillors, or we could hold a special meeting of Planning and Highways Committee on the Tuesday prior. I think the 3rd, yeah, 3rd, because it's the 6th, the deadline.
Week, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's next week.
It is, yes. So I think I'm got tied up in certain evenings, afternoons, evenings. I've got some mornings available. So we also have a limit of 2,000 words.
It's only 4.
Yeah. Difficult, yes, in that, yeah. So I checked with the clerk, and
I suggest, yes, could you, as the chair, a draft, a suggested,
yes,
circulate it to members by email,
yeah,
and subject to their approval,
yeah,
get back.
yeah.
In other words, we delegate it. Are we allowed to delegate it to a person? I don't know what the rules are. Is that
The point is, the committee can delegate approval provided they're comfortable with the positions.
Are you happy with that as the officer? Because you
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
get it wrong.
I think the key point here is that's mindful of one of the other points I'll make is that there is something called the trajectory, which is the predicted number of housing completions per year, and the modified trajectory suggests that the regions of parts would be largely completed almost before North East Thatcham started, and is unlikely that the Regency Park site would support any items of infrastructure by itself. Therefore, there's a question of, particularly the healthcare, where they go to pending the infrastructure that may be provided as part of the North East Thatcham development. I think that would be a key point. The trajectory is a key point in terms of sustainability of the proposal. So I think that's the new element, obviously, because that site is new. We need to consider, I think probably best to consider offline, given that we've only got a few people here, as to our view on the site. Mindful of the situation, and look at how we address the difference between 1,500 and 2,500 houses.
So revenue.
Yeah, so that is also the case that obviously that parish, this has come as a bit of a bombshell because they had assumed that the site had not been included. They haven't been paying a particularly close attention to the progress so far. Bucklebury Parish Council has taken a far firmer approach, yes. So in terms of they have been represented by a planning professional, whereas I have done that for the council, and they have taken a much stronger view by against the principle of development than we have. I'd also say that the Coldback Parish Council have recently finalised their neighbourhood development plan, and I believe that the proposal that's being made is contrary to the neighbourhood development plan. So there's some interesting discussions further ahead, and those will be available on YouTube. Should you watch them? So I think that's the course of action we agree here is that we'll write something that builds on what we've said before. This new specific point is concerns about the relative trajectories of the two sites and the implications on infrastructure. And we will probably need to
paragraph about surrounding houses in terms of consent.
We'll need to work out, we need to check what we need to say. We have to find the right way to phrase that, because we can't really express concerns for the parishes. We can express concerns relating to the parishes, yes.
Wording is your expertise. Yeah.
So those 3 points for approval, and then try to get that signed off for the 6th. And it's fairly, we have had, well, the West Berkshire Council has had a few concessions of a couple of days, but it is literally a couple of days. We might even get it might help us if rather than midday on Friday, we've got midday on Monday, because they lose a day, we gain 3 days. Okay, so we'll make that conclusion then.
Okay. Number 7 is a consultation notification has been received from West Berkshire Council and required by the Gambling Act 2005. He's asked if it wishes to respond to the consultation. The consultation period started on Thursday, the 18th of July, and ends on the 12th of September. I will document. It's a very large document.
Yeah. So I think actually the key point was the first paragraph of 1.1. There we go. This is a document which the council is required to produce under the Act of the State of accounting principles. So past experience of documents that the council is required to produce generally means that they say what the law requires and not a lot more.
And I'll add very quickly as well. This document is virtually identical currently.
Okay.
In that, the only changes are largely technical. So I think, from memory, they changed the population data because it was moved. You're looking for a bit of I would sort of strongly suggest we don't want to spend it.
Okay. I was going to suggest that we take a bet on it not containing anything too critical, given that most of its content is the same, and most of it is actually what is statutory required. And okay, so there's 3 questions. Councillor McCann.
This is exactly on the point that we just made.
Yes.
And therefore it becomes almost an irrelevant piece of paper. On page 40, The last two paragraphs regarding protection of children and vulnerable people in Campbell. The question I have, the last three paragraphs is about the vulnerable person who's identified, and the legislation doesn't specifically say the definition of a vulnerable person. The question the curiosity I've got in my brain says, well, how many people has the council protected by using this information? In other words, if they sent warnings to any gambling establishment within West Berkshire, there must be hundreds of gambling betting shops and gambling places around. Have they sent any about vulnerable people? Because I know people who are actually vulnerable. It's one of the most dangerous habits to break, and it causes more suicide than any other addiction. And I wonder, do they have any statistics on how well they're performing the monitoring of that, or is this just purely a paper exercise? That was that part.
That's one, I guess.
Question one. The bottom part of the very last line, it says best practice. Staff licensed premises to undergo. My concern is that's practice. I would be far stronger. If you're not, you must. Your staff identify that. Then how did they identify vulnerable people within their premises?
Yeah.
So there was
And then.
You know, I mean,
What point do you have? A third point?
the third point was, how do we know what they're doing? If the institution is number one, they do not have data, they have not enforced action, and they will follow best practices because it's about best practices, but nobody checks. The question is, how do they check that their people are compliant rather than just saying, right, there's a document? Fortunately, we have a it's wonderful.
So do you think we should actually raise those questions?
Yes, I think
Okay.
that's perfectly valid.
So I would
Say that, yeah.
I would say actually one of the cycles around that is subject to what they're entitled to do, because it may be that their guidance says that they have that this practice is
enough.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So we just comment say the final three.
Page 14, the last two paragraphs.
Three paragraphs.
You've got the
Got the gist of it, yeah.
it's unfair for us to that's circulating information to see what and how do you monitor it?
Yeah, and you know, through you, Chair, as well, I would imagine some of those issues are controlled by conditions attached to the license itself. If a licensed premises is not following those conditions, there are actions that absolutely linked to that. But I would imagine
If you're not monitoring it, how would you know what to enforce? That's my concern.
Yeah. So I suspect it's actually an interesting question, because there's a lot of monitoring of disruptive behaviour through the police. But the question is how do they obtain information about vulnerable people? Because I presume that there are organisations that
Gambling's Anonymous, all kinds of people like that, and local charity who help people within those dyers. You know, there's more reason.
Yeah. So if you could I think that probably we don't need to see the response, if you could just capture that and what's the deadline? So that report next meeting, so we can just leave it to you to.
Fantastic.
Thank you. So I think planning matters.
Chairman, regarding application for age concern of the Burnham Centre, it's deferred from the last meeting. Yes, better information from West Berkshire Council, primarily regarding the usage of the land in front of the building, the potential EV charging points and parking bays. And there's a lot of resident objections. Provided to but yeah, so still waiting for that response. Point two, Confront Lane, Thatcham, an appeal was made by Mr. Paul White, Hire Company Limited, against the decision of West Berkshire Council. The appeal has since been dismissed, and the main issue is the appeal was whether the council for refusal was well founded.
We'll be back from that one.
Yeah. So any other planning matters received?
Nothing to note since the publication, maybe. Thank you.
Management and highways and road safety issues.
Yes, got a couple. To note, the first one to note is the regarding on-street residential charging point installation between the 12th and the 26th, which was yesterday. It was on Overquart Road. I believe that has actually finished on time. Point two is West Berkshire Council has notified of proposals for cycle directions signing on Linkway 2 in Town Centre to Newbury. I don't know if anyone's noticed, there is actually currently some up. Be the same.
The style.
Yeah, exactly that style.
Ready for it.
Blue, yeah, blue,
The back of the agenda.
blue brown. Right. Providing sort of rather than distance, it's sort of time. Right, have name labour. Those signs around in and around Thatcham.
Right, I'll take a detailed look at that because there were some problems with the existing signage, particularly around the garden centre roundabout. So there's two things around the hospital and around the garden centre roundabout. As a result of several schemes being implemented at different times, not really linking with each other. So, if you were going along the north side of London Road towards the hospital, there's a sign telling you to go along the pavement. 20 metres further on, the sign tells you to go onto the road, onto the cycle lane, and then further on the cycle lane disappears.
Yeah, it's clear maddening.
That's because that was a scheme as part of the hospital development, and they haven't sorted out the continuity.
Yeah.
But I'll take a look at that. We can get back, I think, offline. There's no firm deadline, I guess. The other point actually is at the garden centre roundabout. On the south side, there is a stub piece of Bath Road, Benham Hill, a cul-de-sac, which where the run of the road before the roundabout was built. And people coming along the south side go along that. The official crossing is the pedestrian crossing right by the roundabout, but the visibility is poor, particularly coming out of Hull Way. But there is, I think there's a better opportunity to cross at the end of that stub across the. There is which is a neutral place to do it, and they could put some curbs in. I think that would be a safer position. There may be some reasoning guidance why you can't do it, but I think pragmatically that's where people do it across, and that's
Makes sense.
is to do it. Okay, so I'll deal with that one.
From the note on 9 is West Berkshire Council has notified of changes to Schedule 2 and 3 with amendments, fees and charges, as well as operational days and hours. Way and Piper's Lane are the only ones that have been amended in, and that is.
So we commented, I believe, that we didn't understand why these are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because that discourages people from using the rail. The purpose of charging is to manage demand. It's a statutory purpose of it. And the current charging regime discourages people from, for example, going by train to Reading in the evening, in the weekends when demand is much less. So disappointing that we weren't noted there. But so anyway, so item 4.
Yeah, just one to note, actually, I've sent an email to all councillors this morning about Headache Lane.
A declaration that the notifications are very uninformative. So it said the closure was between the junction of Bath Road and Golden Green Road, which is correct, but it is right at the end of that, to the end of Hennick Lane, right at the point where the two roads align, on the loop part, not the bus route. Not the main route goes to the north, but Hennick Lane goes round to the west. So it's actually a residential only road.
That's your question. But it's part of this. You have the GPS system, which is called 3 words, and that's gets you to within in 6 feet. Could we ask the local authority if they're going to do that where the roadworks are and using that sort of principle? That would certainly narrow it down for a residence.
It's what the utility provides.
Yeah, well, I think the problem.
Oh, okay, even then.
There is a link to a map if you actually get the original document, but of course, by the time it's getting
to us, we are miles away.
and by the time if it gets into the local paper, then the link is lost completely.
As well.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's not unreasonable,
Yeah.
especially for local residents.
Yeah.
Sort of blooming road shut, and they don't know.
Yeah.
Bottom end, top end, middle.
well, that's a particularly obvious case because, well, in fact, I think it was actually an incorrect statement because probably given by the utilities operator because the closest junction is not off road.
But it's
Yeah.
good to local government
Yeah.
officers who turn and come back to us and say, well, help us understand what
Yes.
doing.
Yeah.
Helping local residents.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are on a planning committee, that doesn't seem onerous, does it? It's part of the.
I shall give 3 words. The meeting is closed.